is actually today I'm going to show you some stuff on government tools. And if you've been on government tools before, you know that if you don't touch them for a few minutes, they expire, or they begin to log you out. I'm like, no, don't log me out. So, all right, got my phone set. I'm excited to talk about how to find program offices. That's what we're going to talk about today. How to find program offices that buy what you sell, right? And so my primary goal for today is for you to take away a nugget of how do I do that? So we're going to get rocking and rolling on that. Let me just turn off this little caption, go back to chat. Thanks for hello to those of you who are saying hello in there. And it's good that people can see me on my video because yesterday I had a little hiccup. Okay, let's get started. So today's training, we're going to talk about, like I just mentioned, right, how to find program offices. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my daily LinkedIn Live federal sales training where we teach processes, tips, procedures for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market. Hey, Nino, it's 20 years in the federal market. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. And when we follow the process A to Z, we're going to achieve predictable results, right? Repeatable, predictable results. And that's what we want for you. Before we get started, though, do me a favor, help buyers remember who you are, help me remember who you are, and help the people in the community remember who you are by putting your company name and your core competency into the chat. Use 2 or 3 words just to talk about your core competency. And that's more than enough. It helps sit it in our head. And when you do that, you're going to help people in the community. You're going to help buyers and me remember who you are. Don't ever feel like you can do this too much in trainings. This is almost, I think tomorrow is 150 trainings. Today or tomorrow is 150 trainings in a row, except for when I got COVID. But 150 trainings in a row. And when you're coming to 50 of those or 100 of those or 150 of those for some of you, when you're coming to these trainings, you could never put your company name in too much because the person you would want to meet or could catapult you to the next level might show up today, but they might not have been here yesterday. So always put your company name, core competency into the chat and just let people know you exist and what you do. Also, as we go through the training, keep in mind that I'll be teaching you content. That's my job. And your job is to engage with people who are in the community. The chat is a community. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars to go to a conference in some other state. You don't have to go to a matchmaking event, et cetera, to find people to network with, right? Those are great places, but I'm providing it to you daily right here, virtually free. And I mean, not virtually free, virtually inside of the chat. So communicate with the people in the chat, engage in any way that makes sense. And also, as I go along, I'm going to ask you to throw things into the chat that let me know you're tracking on what I'm saying. So please do that and participate. Okay, so I'm ready to dive into the meat of today's training. Today's training is specifically related to capture. And so I wanted to pause before diving into the complete how of just going over, what is capture when we think about it from the top level. Capture is the process of learning more about and shaping an opportunity. And so here, when you look at your federal pipeline, you want to look at your opportunities and shape either the requirements of the acquisition approach. And so when I teach people, my customers, how to establish a capture process, how to go after your pipeline and really move sales forward, move opportunities forward in the sales lifecycle, I talk about the how. That's what I really drive into. There's a lot of what out there, right? All of us tell you what to do. In these trainings, I try to drive deeper into saying, here's how you do the things I'm saying. And so the how's broken down into specific tasks. How do you accomplish something that I'm saying? So an example of a captured task that I might say that you should be tracking on is if you have an opportunity, an example task would be go find a draft PWS. So the current opportunity, is there an existing set of requirements out there for the opportunity? A draft statement of work, a draft SAL, the statement of objective, statement of work, or program performance work statement, PWS. Is there a draft documentation about the requirements? If there are, go get them. Another task might be go find the previous PWS. So a contract was awarded 3, 4, 5 years ago. I want to go find that previous PWS for a couple of reasons, right? I want to get it so I can read it and understand what's currently supposed to be done on the existing contract. When I go in and talk with the program office in particular, I might try to ask questions about, hey, you guys had these type of things you envisioned in the previous contract. How's that going? Run into any challenges? Were you able to accomplish everything you were trying to do? And then when I have the previous PWS and the current PWS, then I can compare them. So these are just task-based. Another one might be requirements gap analysis, where I take the PWS and I put it into a spreadsheet, and basically just line by line, I'm putting major task areas, like these 7 task areas that they define in the PWS, and then subordinate tasks. Once I have those, I score those subtask areas against my core competencies or my customers' core competencies, which will give me roll-up scores for each one of the task areas, which will give me an overall score of how strong am I on the core competency alignment to the task areas. Another column I have right in there in this gap analysis, for example, is how much past performance do I have on each task area. All of this is designed to give me a score between 1 and 5. And if I have less than 4, I should be abandoning or no bidding that opportunity, because my requirement gap analysis is telling me it's not a fit. Well, these are sample tasks that I would do in Capture. In my process, as I get into it, I'm doing things, it has 50 to 100 different tasks, right? Don't think of them about so much process steps. What they really are the definition of how do I do something? How do I shape the opportunities acquisition approach? How do I shape the customer's thinking on requirements? How do I learn more information? And so I just write all these down so I have them. And in a minute, today's training is talking about 3 of the tasks that I have in my Capture tasks. So as we go forward, it's really important for me that you understand that Capture is just a process, right? It's not charisma. It's not I'm going in, I'm wowing the customer, and they're saying, wow, Neil, you speak so eloquently about cyber, we're going to buy from you. That's not how it works. The customer buys on a very formal process. And all I'm saying is we can put a similar type process on how we capture. And so Capture is a process. If you understand that, do me a favor in the chat, put Capture is a process. Capture is a process. And so is drinking water. You don't have to put drinking water in the chat, just Capture is a process. Okay, one other thing I wanted to introduce you to is this concept that I do. I call it agile business development, right? I'm a IT guy from 20, 30 years back. I've been doing IT, network engineering, software development, cybersecurity, all this kind of activity. When I blend it together with my sales experience, I begin to come up with my own ways of looking at something. It's not overly original. What's original, though, is just how I begin to describe my efforts of the process. So I call it agile business development, because I don't want to see capturing an opportunity as this huge holistic set of activities I have to do. What I want to do, the agile part of it is I want to create 2 to 4 hour tasks for myself. The idea is that every single day I can be getting something done, or if I'm working on this thing, I know it's only going to take this much time. And in software development, we say if it takes more than 2 to 4 hours, for example, then you probably have too big of a task or a story, and you want to break it down. And so if I sit there and say, go find out who the program office is, contracting office, and funding office is, what I'm going to talk about today, well, that's too big. And so I break it down into 3 different tasks, saying, find out who the program office is, find out the contracting office, and find out the funding office. And so agile business development is designed to give you this approach iteratively moving forward on your activities. So every single day that you're working on it, you can see progress, sales progress on your opportunities that are in your pipeline. What's the point of having opportunities in your pipeline if you can't see the progress? So today, I'm going to show you 3 of those we call them agile stories in software development. And I do the same thing in business development, where I just say it's a story. It's a capture story, capture task. But in those, I define what does it take to get it done. So if I say, go find out who the program office is, then I include in my task for my team or the people I'm working with, I include what's called the definition of done as well as guidance. So a definition of done means, how do I know I finished that task? And guidance is, how do I do that task? This all goes into just making sure you have a proven process within your company that can first be documented and then begin to be repeatable. And this is organizational maturity. So another training, but keep that in mind as we move forward, because the 3 tasks I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to go in a second and share my screen. and show you how I do this. But the 3 tasks I do related to Agile business development. By the way, if you understand what I'm saying on Agile business development, just throw in Agile BD into the chat. Let me know this is making sense. And if you want me to clarify it more, maybe even a whole nother training, put a note about that, but put Agile BD into the chat. So the 3 offices that I want to be tracking on any opportunity within my sales pipeline, my federal sales pipeline, are the program office, the funding agency or office, and the contracting agency or office, right? 3 groups of people who are touching the opportunities that I want to go after. And so the program office has let me just break them down for you in the way I describe it. The program office, they have the actual requirement that leads to a contract opportunity. So if you've got an opportunity in a pipeline, it's got a PWS that has a set of requirements. The program office is the one who has those requirements. Pretty straightforward, right? The funding office or the funding agency, these are the people who provide the funding for that requirement that the program office has. And that leads to a contract award. The funding office could be in the same office and agency. It could be in a related one. It could be in an unrelated one, as I'll show you in a minute. But whoever it is, these are the people providing the cash. They're the ones providing the dollars. And then the third office is the contracting agency or contracting office. And so these are the people basically with the contracting officer who's going to sign the deal. They're the one who issues or awards a contract to you to fill that requirement that the funding agency is paying for and the program office has a requirement for. Hopefully that makes sense. And we're going to go through there. But if you understand what I'm talking about and why it's important to understand the difference between these 3, then do me a favor, say, know your buyer in the chat. Knowing your buyer is about understanding that when you talk to the program office, it's about the actual requirements. It's about trying to influence their thinking on possible right solutions that are going to happen in there. It's about understanding their challenges, their objectives. When you talk about the funding agency, you might be talking about where's this money coming from? What account, what funding source? How reliable is that funding determination? Like, was it in a budget last year or a couple of years ago and you knew you were going to do this? The funding office is the one who's very familiar with that. Where's the money coming from? And on an opportunity, especially the larger the dollar value gets, you want to know who that is. You want to be able to have conversations, have relationships with people in there so that you can at least learn from them, if not shape it. And then the last one is the contracting officer in the contracting agency and office. What you want to be able to do with them is not the scope, the requirements, but the acquisition approach. One of the opportunities I'm going to share, and I probably won't get to showing you it, but it is the opportunity I'm sharing today. It was originally set aside for service disabled veteran owned, and then it got switched to being set aside to woman owned small business at the last minute. Well, that would drive me into that contracting officer 2 things: to find out why would happen. Also, if I'm an SDVO, a service disabled veteran owned business, then I might be in that contracting officer office constantly making sure that at the last minute, it doesn't switch over. And I've seen this happen to large firms as well. So it doesn't just happen to smalls. I've watched larges get blindsided where they thought it was going one way and then all of a sudden it switched. And to me, that generally happens because we're not doing as much as we can to maintain the relationship. But the contracting agency, contracting office, they're the ones who talk about that acquisition approach. Okay, hopefully all that made sense. And that really comes down to knowing your buyer. So put know your buyer, if you haven't done it yet, into the chat. And I want to switch over and share my screen, but I might just share this one slide I have rather than just talk to it because I'm looking at my time and we're cruising pretty fast. My SAM timeouts keep hitting. This is something I see people, it happens to people all the time when they try to use SAM or FPDS or some of these trainings and the tools go haywire on us. 1 second. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen there, and I'm just going to share this slide really quick. Nothing fancy, but you can read it as I'm talking. But one of the things I wanted to point out about why it's important to know those 3 offices is because of what is not publicly available. If you think about FPDS, that is the source data of opportunities. USA Spending has a little variation on it, but basically USA Spending is just pulling it from FPDS. So is GovWin. So is every other tool that's out there. All those tools that you might subscribe to about bids or about previous awarded contracts, basically are pulling it from FPDS and SAM, right? And so these are your source data. But one of the things I wanted to point out is, why these offices and knowing who they are and building relationships inside of them is really important. So you see I'm going to skip on number 1, but number 2, right? Contract funding beyond just, hey, it's a 1.3 million is not in there. How the funding is happening is not in there. And so number 2 in here, I might use that as a way to go to the funding office and ask them questions around the funding. I might go into any one of the program office or the with the core in particular, maybe, and the contracting office, and ask on number 3, hey, can you tell me about the CLINs of the deliverables, number 4 here? Can you tell me about those? It gives me an understanding of the deliverables, but also I can start shaping my questions when I have meetings about how those CLINs work out for you. How about the deliverables? Were the deliverables valuable to you, or were they just in there because they were in the last 50 contracts that you templatized, right? Are these important? And by knowing this early on, I can start shaping it. Maybe I want to get rid of deliverables. Like they might have a QASP, QAST, quality assurance, something plan, right? I might want to shape that and say, why don't you get rid of that? Why does that have to be a deliverable? Well, knowing what to ask and what information is not available and maybe who has it is why we want to know the program office and contracting and funding office. The last one I'll talk about is just down here at the number 6, details of entity employee. That's you, right? Details of the contractor, employee count, and staffing levels. This is really important. So if I'm looking to thinking about the pricing or what's the funding like, and maybe I can't find an actual funding, if I can get into the program office and start asking them about, say they do SharePoint and I'm looking at a repeat contract or something, I can begin to talk about, wow, you guys are doing a lot. How many people do you have doing SharePoint? Well, we have 3 developers and 1 engineer. No, cool. Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, that seems about right with what we're doing somewhere else. And I'll run away and say, hey, they got 4 people. Now I know my pricing is somewhere around 4 people, right? And having an understanding of what's missing from tools like FPDS allow you to understand what questions you might want to ask when you go in. If you haven't seen me do a lot of training, I've done training on call plans, but call plans is about writing down the questions you want to ask before you go so that you control the meeting. Okay, a lot of stuff. Now let me show you how I do this. All these tabs are the how. Okay, so we're going to go really fast. We got 12 minutes, I think. And I love coming at this with a lot of energy and a lot of stuff. So I'm going to go through 2 different examples, one cyber and one SharePoint. And I just want to walk you through how I'm finding the program office, the funding office, and the contracting office. I'm not going to go deep into that. That's what I do with my customers when I'm actually with them. But I will give you more than enough for you to take any opportunity you have in your pipeline and know how to go find the program office, funding office, and contracting office out there. Okay, so I did a keyword search, just said SharePoint. Find the opportunities on SharePoint. I got 5 results. Fire hose of information, by the way, I shoot at you really fast. I came in and I saw this one and I liked it. And this is a contract award. I liked it because it's $1 million, 1.3, right? In SharePoint, I'm like, hey, this is good stuff. It has some helpful information in here you can look at, but I'm just going to kind of keep moving. But one of the things you notice right here at the top is it talks about, okay, the hierarchy of this decision or this contract. Department of Defense, under that is the Air Force. It was under the Air Force, you got AEC, and then you got, they're talking about Joint Base San Antonio and the office here, and CON, that's a contracting office. The reason I'm showing you this first is because in SAM, it's not actually the real details, and I'll show you in a second. But it's a start. It's exactly what I want. So then there's 2 pieces of information I want to get out of SAM as I keep moving forward. One is the contract award number, because I can use that in FPDS and other stuff. The other is the UEI for the vendor who won. So when I'm doing research, I can look either by the contract number or the vendor and begin to discover. So I'm in SAM, I find an opportunity, I pull out the UEI and the contract number. And then one of the things I said is this is an award, right? Sorry for going down really fast, but this is an award. So what I do is I come down to the history and I say, well, I actually want the solicitation information. So I click on this link and I get this one. And this gives me the solicitation information. And what I'm looking for is exactly what you see here. The set of descriptions that are in here, et cetera. It all looks good. And I'm going to show you in a minute. By the way, 3 FTEs, 1 FTE. That's how I got the 4 FTEs earlier. But as I'm coming down, I don't see attachments. And then I realize it's because I clicked on something that said pre-solicitation because that's all they had. But now I want to click on the latest solicitation document and go in there. So I clicked on it. I'm going to come in. So here's the solicitation. I just want to go really quick and show you that from here, I'm scrolling to the bottom to the attachment areas. And in the attachments is where the bulk of the information is. I'm looking for a PWS that might tell me about the customer, the actual program office. I'm also looking for any of the contracting details. And so I looked at this amendment, right? I always look at the latest file first, and then I work my way back if I need to. And so I clicked on it, opened it. It's right here. And in here, one of the things I see right away is that the program office, the people with the requirement are actually the medical and education training campus, right? METC. It's down in Sam Houston. It's down in Texas. That's perfect. But now I know the program office. That's the folks I want to meet. I took that information, went to Google. Google was kind enough to tell me the website. And I came out here and now I understand the medical education training campus, right? You're following my thread as I'm going through, right? And if you're following this thread as I'm doing it, just write research rocks at any point you feel research actually is rocking you. Okay, so in here, I don't spend a lot of time right now, but now I'm like, okay, I know this program office, I'm squared away, but I still want to really be solidly understanding the contracting office and the funding office. So I'm clicking in here. Next, this is FPDS. If you don't know it, go take some training on it. The PTACs do a great job on it. I got a little, but I don't really spend a lot of time in here as much. But in here, all I did is put that office, medical education and training campus, right there in the middle. When I did it, I got a set of results. Don't worry about those for the moment. I was looking for that one opportunity I've been tracking the whole time, and it is right here. So here, I'll pause for a second. And in here, I can confirm it's the $1.3 million opportunity. Great. So now I'm going to see what are they putting in FPDS that I can learn more about. So first off, I got a handful of people's names. If I didn't have them from SAM, I've got additional contracting people in here. But as I come down, this part here, the purchaser information is one of the key ones. I'm looking in here saying, okay, the contracting office is the 502 contracting something or other, right? Whatever that is. I could have took it the time, but I didn't look. But that's the contracting office. So now I have a program office, that METC, and now I've got a contracting office, and it says here that the funding office is actually the program office, because apparently these guys are big enough, they're managing their own funds, et cetera. But it's just confirmation. So now when I go and I'm tracking this data in my sales pipeline for this opportunity, I just say program office is METC, the contracting office, funding office is also METC. And then the contracting office is this. That tells me these people are separate from the METC and I want to go meet them. How do you work with vendors? Like if I don't have a relationship, then I don't really know how they work and I want to get in there and understand that. The next thing I do is I move over into USA Spending and I take this vendor because they display it a little differently. So I go find the opportunity. This is the vendor. Remember, I said I grabbed the contract number and I grabbed the UEI for that vendor so that I can go learn a little bit more. And I click on that opportunity. You see highlighted 1.3. And I come to my last tab on this example. And in here, I can get some information. I can see obviously right away DOD. I come down. I want to get down to the part I really want to share with you in here. But if I come down, I can look at the funding agency. And this is where I want to pause you for the last tip on this example, is that in the agency detail, it tells me the awarding office is the contracting office, right? That contracting office is the only ones who can award. So that's there. But the funding agency was METC on FPDS, if I use a lot of acronyms. But when I'm in here with USA Spending, it's saying that the funding is actually coming from DHA. So Defense Health Agency. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. Is METC this DHA one? Is it actually a DOD like subordinate agency that's under? I'll have to go learn that. But because I did this research, now I know the contracting and the funding offices and the program office. And the funding office, I've got two scenarios which might just help me understand this opportunity way more when I go ask some questions about it. Hopefully that made sense. Let me show you one more example from a cyber perspective. And again, if you see what I'm saying, and if you understand the value of researching, which leads you right to information, put research rocks as many times as you want into the chat, because I'm going to show you something else that's just super cool on doing research. So here I did not cyber. I did DevSecOps. So development, security, and operations. It's software development, basically. And so in here, I did DevSecOps approach. And I got 7 results. And when I come down, I get this first opportunity, which is the award, right? This notice is the award of it. And I can come in here and see some of the key information, which I want to see about the agency, the subordinate commands, et cetera. But I told you the process I go through. So I come down here and I'm looking for the original links, but there is none, right? So something happened in here where I couldn't find it. Pretty much it was stopped. I could try harder to see if it's out there in SAM, but I just said, forget about that. Let me take what I have here, the contract number right there, and go ahead and enter it. And by the way, when you enter it, it comes back and says no results because it doesn't like dashes. So if you ever do that, just get rid of the dashes. So here's the opportunity. I found it. I came over here and I'm able to look at, let me scroll in a little bit. I'm able to look at what I showed you before, right? The purchaser's information. I can see that it's the Department of Air Force, Digital Directorate, so AFL-CIMC right here. And then I can also see so that's the contracting office, and then I see the funding office. So in this particular opportunity, I can actually see that the funding and contracting offices are all very tightly together. They might be in different floors or something, but they're the same shop. It's AFL-CIMC, same command. So I want to keep digging a little further. And as I come in, I'm looking for that vendor, and I'm trying to learn more about what they're doing. So I took their information and brought it over, did a list of who they are. And so that was their UEI. And what I got was this particular opportunity. And you remember how I show you, if you go to the bottom on USA spending, different than FPDS, you can get agency details. So here, when I look at it, it's the same. This is why research rocks. You don't just stop when you first get what you're looking at. You go down a couple of rabbit holes to figure it out. I've got a general idea who the contracting office is, the agency, and who the funding office is. But when I go further and do some additional Google research, I find this company Octo, who actually is a subcontractor under RAF, who won the contract I'm looking at. And when I look at it, they put out a press release, and these guys were super generous. They're telling me about the opportunity and some of the details in here. And so I'm able to look in and see that there's this cloud computing and IT integration contract. Now I'm going farther down. And as I read their press release, I can begin to get more information in here about, the Kessel Software Factory and how it's got additional members in there. And then one last thing I'll show you just on the research. I see how my time's running out. But another article here, just randomly on the internet, but I'm following that same opportunity. Here it's talking about support for Kessel Run Cloud Computing IT Initiative. This article is just another way of somebody communicating that these guys won. But when they wrote it, I'm able to come down here and begin to see. So before, I didn't even know it was Kessel Run. Whereas I'm losing my track here. Right here. So on the contracting and funding offices, it stops with the AFL-CIMC. But as I come through, I can look at Detachment 12, it's Kessel Run. And as I continue to dig down further in Kessel Run, I'm able to see that it's that there's the teams that are in there, and there's the CITI program. And so now I'm at a program office within a program office type thing. I'm able to find these people. Now, by doing that research, I'm able to have found a handful of these people who are all related to the opportunity, the contracting office, the funding office, and the program office. When I have that information, I now know which offices I want to find people in to be able to do research and build relationships with, right? And so that's kind of the kicker in there. I know it's a fire hose. Hopefully you were able to pull it out. One thing I just mentioning, right? In this training, I showed you how to find the program funding and contracting offices for a particular opportunity. If you don't know who these offices are for your key opportunities, then your chances of winning are down. So I want to encourage you to use this knowledge, whether you know these 3 offices, as a measurement of your team's true understanding of an opportunity and your true likelihood of winning it. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you found today's training valuable, do me a favor, throw thanks into the chat. Remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.